Well, if you've waited weeks for a parcel that should have been delivered in days, or you can't get your hands on timber to finish off that extension, you're experiencing firsthand the shock that COVID has inflicted on global supply chains.
It is affecting every country and nearly every industry in the world. And this week on News Breakfast, Madeleine is taking an in-depth look. And this morning, Madeleine's at Australia's largest port in Melbourne. Take it away.
Michael, good morning. Yes, it's all happening down here at the Port of Melbourne, which is Australia's largest container port. This is one of 3 docks here at the Port of Melbourne. I'm at Webb Dock at the Victoria International Container Terminal. Here at the Port of Melbourne, 7,000 containers are handled every day. They do 3 million a year. And why does this matter? Well, because we are a nation that relies on imports. And as we know, those global supply chains have really been disrupted. We're going to be digging into that for the rest of the week here on News Breakfast, starting where it all starts for us, which is at those ports. So with me this morning is the CEO of the Port of Melbourne, Brendan Burke. Brendan, good morning.
Good morning, Madeleine.
You'd better describe what's going on behind us, first of all.
Yeah, so we've got 2 ships here at the dock, and the one just immediately behind us is loading exports. And so those exports will be coming from regional Victoria or Tasmania or southern New South Wales, loading things like, grains, wine, cereal, all of these kind of very important agricultural exports.
And before they loaded the exports, they took off the imports. And how much do we rely as a country on imports?
Yeah, we're part of a global supply chain, so we rely a lot, on imports coming into the country. I think the port plays an everyday role in everybody's lives. I think for your viewers looking today, on their devices, their TVs, they would have come through a port. Probably the coffee or the tea that they're drinking has also come through the port. So there are a lot of things that we touch every day that are imported, and that's because we're part of the global supply chain.
So tell us about what delays we've experienced at Port of Melbourne and also at ports in Australia as this supply chain crunch has hit.
Yeah, well, over the last month or so, we've had sort of impacts that first of all have started in international ports where shipping has been off schedule, and that causes vessels to be late and sort of bunched together and have to be they all arrive at the same time. And then we've had that compounded by some COVID cases, which has meant that some of the workforce has been off while they've been isolating, and then there's been some industrial issues. So all of those compound to actually slow down the throughput of the goods through the port.
Yeah, and that originates in, first of all, COVID cases at ports overseas, also delays in factories. It's all kind of coming together. Actually, here in Australia at ports, we're not doing too badly, because at the Port of LA, they've got something like 100 ships backed up there. Huge delays. How are you going here at the Port of Melbourne?
Yeah, well, thankfully, the situation, the scale is quite different. Look, the Port of Melbourne and the whole port supply chain over the last sort of 12 to 15 months has worked very well, had very good COVID-safe practices, and so the goods have continued to flow. The last month, we've had some issues to do with some isolated sort of COVID cases, together with some industrial relations issues. And what they've done, and at the same time we're going through our peak season, pre-Christmas, a lot of goods are coming in, and all that's compounded just to slow things down a little bit.
Just want to finally ask you, Brendan, we hear talk about a global container shortage. Now, containers make the world go round, literally. Can you explain how we can have a shortage of these?
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting. I think what's happened in Melbourne, in the rest of Australia, and indeed around the world, is that as everybody's gone into lockdown, they've actually bought goods online, and it's all about the home and the office. So there's been a surge in things like household appliances, furniture, even things like gym equipment. And this is just happening around the world. So we've got this global demand. The ships are full, and what's happening is there's increased demand, and that throughput is struggling in these international ports, particularly where they've been impacted by COVID. And so what that means is that you've got this huge demand for product, but the shipping containers that have been, full and emptied can't get back to the points of origin. And so there is this huge demand for containers. And so it's going to take a little while to unwind itself.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We don't have enough ships as well. They're doubling the supply of ships. Brendan, thank you so much for that, for explaining all of that. There's so much to this global supply chain crunch, Lisa and Michael. The fact that the ships get double what they get paid to travel to the North American and European routes from China than they get paid to come to Australia. That's affecting it as well. We don't have enough ships, we don't have enough containers. We're looking at it all from the importing side today, and in the next hour we're going to be speaking to someone who actually gets their goods from China to learn about what's been happening in their factories and how that's affected them and affected the people watching at home.
And Madge, you won't be surprised, people at home are sending in lots of comments about their personal experiences. We'll get to a few of them a bit later. Thanks, Mads.